Sarah Chen's hands trembled as she placed the formula can back on the counter. The cashier's expression didn't change. Behind her, someone sighed loudly. Her 8-month-old daughter whimpered in the carrier against her chest. "I'll come back when I can," Sarah whispered, the lie burning her throat because she had no idea when that would be. The manager crossed his arms. "We can't hold items, ma'am." She nodded, unable to speak. $42. She was $42 short. Lily needed this formula, the hypoallergenic kind, the only kind that didn't make her scream for hours with rashes covering her tiny body. Sarah gathered the 3 items she could afford, a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, a gallon of milk, and walked toward the exit, each step heavier than the last. Before we begin, we'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below, and if this story touches your heart, please subscribe and stay with us until the very end. Your support means everything. Now, let's continue. The automatic doors released Sarah into the November cold. Missoula's early winter hit like a fist, sharp, unforgiving, the kind of cold that found every gap in worn clothing. She pressed Lily closer, feeling the baby's rapid heartbeat against her ribs. "I'm sorry, baby," she whispered. "Mommy's sorry." Lily's cry intensified. She was hungry. The breast milk had dried up weeks ago. Stress, the doctor said. Exhaustion. Sarah had cried in that office too, ashamed of her body's failure. The bus stop was a quarter-mile away. Sarah shifted the grocery bag and started walking. Her boots, held together with duct tape on the inner sole, let in moisture with every step. The cold climbed up through her feet. She was 26 years old. 6 months ago, she'd been someone different. Someone who slept through the night. Someone whose husband came home. "Ma'am?" Sarah's head snapped up. A man stood near the store entrance, tall and broad-shouldered, watching her. Beside him sat the most beautiful dog she'd ever seen. Amber coat, intelligent eyes, perfectly still. "You dropped this," the man said, but he wasn't holding anything. Sarah's grip tightened on Lily. "I didn't drop anything." "My mistake." He didn't move away. His eyes, dark, steady, held something she couldn't name. Not pity. Something else. The dog whined softly, its gaze fixed on Lily. Sarah turned and walked faster. Her pulse hammered. She didn't need help. Didn't need strangers watching her humiliation. Didn't need... "Mama?" A woman's voice called from a car pulling up. "You need a ride?" "No, thank you," Sarah called back without stopping. But the man with the dog was still watching. She could feel it. 4 hours earlier, Sarah had been standing in the basement studio she called home, staring at the eviction notice. 30 days. Rachel Donovan, her landlord, had been patient. More patient than most. But patience ran out when rent was 3 months overdue. "I'll have it," Sarah had said that morning when Rachel knocked. "My paycheck comes Friday." Rachel's expression had been kind but firm. "That's what you said 2 weeks ago, Sarah." I know, but this time, the notice stands. I'm sorry. I have my own bills." Sarah had nodded. What else could she do? Beg? She'd already begged the insurance company, begged her former in-laws, begged the VA. Begging changed nothing. James had been dead for 6 months. 6 months, 1 week, and 4 days. Killed during a training exercise at Camp Pendleton. A malfunction. A mistake. Someone else's mistake that had taken her husband's life and left her with a baby, medical debt, and an insurance claim denied on a technicality she still didn't understand. Pre-existing condition, the letter had said. Policy exclusion applies. James hadn't had a pre-existing condition. He'd been healthy, strong, 28 years old. But the insurance company had found something, PTSD, documented after his second deployment, and used it to deny everything. Sarah had called 17 times, spoken to 14 different representatives, been transferred, disconnected, told to submit additional paperwork that she'd already submitted 3 times. The VA said they were processing her widow's benefits. Processing. Everything was always processing. Meanwhile, Lily needed formula, needed diapers, needed a warm place to sleep. Sarah had 2 jobs, waitressing at Eddie's Diner 4 nights a week, cleaning offices on weekends. She slept in 3-hour increments. Sometimes she'd fall asleep standing up at the sink, wake up with water still running. This morning, she'd been fired from Eddie's. "You missed Tuesday," Eddie had said, not meeting her eyes. "I had to cover your shift myself." "Lily was sick. I told you she had a fever. I had to take her to urgent care." "I know. I'm sorry. But I can't keep doing this. Please, Eddie, please. I'll work double shifts. I already hired someone else." The floor had tilted under her feet. Now, 4 hours later, Sarah stood at a bus stop with $3.18 in her pocket, a baby who needed formula she couldn't buy, and nowhere to go in 30 days. "God, if you're there," she thought, then stopped. She didn't know how to finish that prayer anymore. Marcus Reed watched the young woman walk away, every instinct in his body screaming at him to follow. Ghost whined again, more insistently this time. "I know, buddy," Marcus said quietly. "I see her." He'd been standing outside the grocery store for 20 minutes, trying to decide whether to go in. Crowds still bothered him. The fluorescent lights, the noise, all of it could trigger the headaches that had plagued him since the IED blast 16 months ago in Kandahar. "Traumatic brain injury," the doctors said. "You're lucky to be alive." Lucky. Marcus didn't feel lucky. He felt broken. Discharged on medical leave, living in his late uncle's house in Billings, seeing a VA psychologist twice a week who kept using words like processing and adjustment period. But Ghost had saved him. Literally saved him when Marcus had been pinned under rubble, bleeding out, convinced he was dying. And Ghost had stayed by his side through every surgery, every nightmare, every moment when Marcus wanted to give up. The dog was trained to detect explosives, but he'd developed another skill since Marcus's injury: reading trauma. Ghost could sense when Marcus was spiraling, could detect elevated cortisol levels, could intervene before a panic attack took hold. And right now, Ghost was locked onto the woman with the baby like she was a bomb about to detonate. Marcus trusted Ghost's instincts more than his own. "What do you think?" Marcus asked, crouching beside the dog. "What are you sensing?" Ghost's ears were forward, his entire body tense with focus. He whined and looked up at Marcus, then back at the woman, now nearly at the bus stop. The woman stumbled slightly, catching herself. The baby's cry carried on the wind. Marcus made his decision. "Come on," he said, standing. "Let's go." He walked back into the grocery store. The lights hit him immediately, too bright, too harsh. His head throbbed. He ignored it. The formula aisle was easy to find. Marcus grabbed the most expensive option, the one he'd seen the woman holding, and didn't check the price. Money wasn't his problem. He had his military pension, his uncle's inheritance. He had enough. What he didn't have was purpose. Dr. Helen Ortega, his therapist, kept telling him he needed to find meaning again. "You can't live in the past, Marcus," she'd said in their last session. "You have to build something new." But the past was all Marcus had, memories of his unit, of the men he'd served with, of the ones who hadn't come home, of the young Marine who had saved his life when he had no reason to. Marcus added bread to his cart, peanut butter, milk, eggs, cheese, fresh fruit, canned soup. He moved through the aisles quickly, efficiently, the way he'd been trained to move through hostile territory, with purpose and without hesitation. At the checkout, the same cashier who'd processed the woman's transaction looked at him with bored eyes. "Cash or card?" "Card." Marcus handed it over. The total was $143. He didn't blink. Outside, the temperature had dropped further. Freezing rain was starting to mix with the earlier sleet. Marcus loaded the bags into his truck, a '98 Ford F-150, battered but reliable, and turned to Ghost. "Find her," he said simply. Ghost took off, not running but moving with clear intent. Marcus followed. The dog led him straight to the bus stop where the woman sat on the bench, hunched over her baby, rocking slightly. She looked up when they approached. Fear flashed across her face. Marcus stopped 10 feet away, holding the bags where she could see them. "I'm not following you," he said. "I promise. But my dog won't leave until I give you these." It was partially true. Ghost had planted himself between the woman and the wind, using his body as a shield. The woman, Chinese-American, Marcus noted, with dark hair pulled into a messy bun and eyes that were red from crying, stared at him. "I don't understand," she said. "Neither do I," Marcus admitted. "But Ghost here is trained to detect problems. And he's detecting one. So either you take these bags, or I'm going to be standing in the freezing rain until the next bus comes, which, according to that schedule," he nodded toward the posted timetable, "isn't for another 45 minutes. The woman looked at the bags, at Ghost, at Marcus. "I can't pay you back," she said finally. "I'm not asking you to. I don't take charity." "It's not charity. It's..." Marcus paused, searching for the right word. What was it? "It's obligation. One person to another." The baby cried louder. The woman's face crumpled, just for a second, before she forced it back into hardness. "Why?" she whispered. Marcus didn't have an answer, not one he could explain. So he said, "Because Ghost won't let me walk away. And I learned a long time ago to trust this dog more than I trust myself." Ghost's tail wagged once. The woman's laugh came out as a sob. She covered her mouth with her hand, shoulders shaking. Marcus took a careful step forward and set the bags down on the bench beside her. Then he stepped back, giving her space. "There's formula in there," he said. "The hypoallergenic kind, and some other things." She didn't reach for the bags. Didn't move. "Look," Marcus said gently, "I don't know your story. You don't know mine. But it's too cold for your baby to be out here, so please, just take them." The freezing rain intensified. The baby's cries turned desperate. The woman broke. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Sarah couldn't believe she was sitting in a stranger's truck. But Lily's cough had worsened in the 10 minutes they'd waited, a wet, rattling sound that terrified Sarah. And the man, Marcus, he'd said his name was Marcus, had offered so quietly, so calmly, that saying no had felt impossible. "Where to?" he asked, starting the engine. Heat blasted from the vents. Sarah almost cried at the warmth. "Livingston," she said. "Maple Street." "The basement apartment behind the blue house." Marcus nodded and pulled onto the road. Ghost sat in the back seat, his eyes never leaving Lily. They drove in silence for several minutes. Sarah fed Lily a bottle she'd made that morning, the last of the old formula, stretched thin with extra water. It wasn't enough. It was never enough. Lily drank greedily, her small hands grabbing at the bottle. "What's her name?" Marcus asked. Sarah hesitated. "Lily." "That's pretty." More silence. "And you're Sarah," Marcus said. She stiffened. "How do you know that?" "Your name tag," he gestured vaguely. "On your coat, from the diner." Sarah looked down. Her Eddie's Diner name tag was still pinned to her jacket. She'd forgotten to take it off. Not that it mattered anymore. "I don't work there now," she said. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It's not your fault." Marcus didn't respond. They turned onto Maple Street. "It's the one on the left," Sarah said, pointing. Marcus pulled into the driveway and cut the engine. For a moment, neither of them moved. "Thank you," Sarah said finally. "For everything. I can't." "You don't have to," Marcus said. She looked at him then, really looked. He was older than James had been, mid-30s maybe, with a face that looked like it had seen hard things. A scar cut through his right eyebrow. His hands on the steering wheel were scarred too. Military, Sarah thought. Something about his posture, his bearing. She recognized it. "Were you deployed?" she asked, before she could stop herself. Marcus's jaw tightened. "Yeah, Afghanistan. 2 tours." Sarah nodded. "My husband was a Marine, Corporal James Chen." Was. The word hurt every time. Marcus went very still. Was? "He died 6 months ago. Training accident." Sarah's voice was flat. She'd said it so many times it had lost all meaning. "They said it was a malfunction. Equipment failure." She watched Marcus's face change. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition, maybe, or pain. She couldn't tell. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Everyone's sorry," Sarah said, not unkindly. "Sorry doesn't pay the rent." She gathered Lily and reached for the door handle. "Wait," Marcus said. Sarah paused. Can I help carry the bags in?" Every instinct told Sarah to say no. She'd already accepted too much, already crossed too many boundaries. But Lily was heavy, and the bags were many, and Sarah was so tired. "Okay," she said. Marcus followed Sarah down a narrow set of exterior stairs to a basement entrance. The door stuck when she tried to open it. She had to push hard with her shoulder while balancing Lily. "Here," Marcus said, setting down the bags. He put his weight against the door, and it gave way with a groan. The apartment inside was small, tiny. A single room with a kitchenette along one wall, a bathroom visible through a half-open door, and a sleeping area with a crib and a narrow bed. But it was clean. Immaculate, actually. Everything in its place. And then Marcus saw the wall. Photos. Dozens of them. Most were of a man in marine dress blues, young, smiling, standing with his arm around Sarah on their wedding day. Others showed the same man in fatigues, in combat zones, with his unit. But it was the formal portrait that stopped Marcus's heart. Corporal James Chen, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. The face Marcus had seen in his nightmares for 5 years. The man who had saved his life. "That's James," Sarah said softly, following his gaze. She'd put Lily in the crib and was unpacking the groceries. "That was taken right before his last deployment, 2019. 2019. Afghanistan. Helmand Province. Marcus's vision blurred, his chest constricted. He couldn't breathe. "Are you okay?" Sarah's voice sounded far away. Marcus forced air into his lungs. I need to. Excuse me." He turned and walked out quickly, climbing the stairs 2 at a time. Ghost was already at the truck, sensing Marcus's distress. The dog pressed against his legs as Marcus braced himself against the vehicle, head spinning. It couldn't be. It couldn't be the same James Chen. There were hundreds of Marines with that name, thousands maybe. But Marcus knew. Deep in his gut, he knew. The eyes, the smile, the unit designation on one of the photos. It was him. 5 years earlier, Helmand Province. The explosion had come from nowhere. 1 second, Marcus's unit was clearing a compound. The next, the world was fire and screaming metal. Marcus had been thrown against a wall. When he opened his eyes, he was pinned under concrete and rebar. His legs were trapped. Blood ran into his eyes. Ghost was whimpering somewhere to his left, also pinned. "Stay with me, boy," Marcus had gasped. "Stay with me." Gunfire erupted, insurgents taking advantage of the chaos. Marcus's rifle was out of reach. He was helpless, dying. Then a Marine appeared through the smoke, young, barely more than a kid. Corporal's stripes on his uniform. "I got you, sir," the kid had said. "I got you." He'd worked with bare hands, tearing away rubble. Marcus had screamed as the weight shifted. The kid didn't stop. Bullets hit the wall above them. The kid didn't stop. "Talk to me, sir," the kid had said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Stay awake. Tell me about home. You got family?" "No," Marcus had gasped. "No family." "Everyone's got someone, sir. Think. Who's waiting for you?" "Ghost," Marcus had managed. "My dog. Ghost." The kid had looked over at the trapped Belgian Malinois and nodded. "Then we're getting both of you out. Ghost first, then you. Deal?" Marcus hadn't understood why the dog first, but the kid was already moving, dragging Ghost free from the rubble, checking him for injuries. The dog was bleeding from shrapnel wounds, but alive. "Good boy," the kid had said. "Now stay." Ghost had stayed, whining, while the kid came back for Marcus. It had taken 20 minutes. 20 minutes of the kid lifting concrete that should have been impossible to move. 20 minutes of him talking constantly about his fiancée Sarah back home, about how they were going to get married when he got back, about how he wanted kids someday, a daughter maybe, wanted to teach her about service and honor and doing the right thing, even when it was hard. 20 minutes while insurgent fire grew closer, and the kid's hands bled, and his face dripped sweat, and he refused to leave. When the medevac finally arrived, the kid had carried Marcus out himself. Carried him while Ghost limped alongside. "You're going to make it, sir," the kid had said. "You and Ghost both. You're going to make it, and you're going to go home, and you're going to have a good life. Promise me." Marcus had been fading, losing consciousness, but he'd heard himself say, "I promise." The kid had smiled. "Good. Now I can get back to Sarah." Marcus had woken up 3 days later in a field hospital. Ghost was curled up beside his bed, bandaged but alive. The doctors said it was a miracle they'd both survived. Marcus had asked about the kid who pulled him out. The corporal, James Chen. "Transferred out yesterday," a nurse had said. "Heading home. His deployment's over." Marcus had written a letter, sent it to James's unit. Never got a response. He'd assumed James had received it, read it, moved on. You didn't dwell on the people you saved. You did your job and kept going. Marcus had always meant to find James someday, thank him properly, tell him that he'd kept his promise, that Marcus and Ghost had gone home and built a good life. Except Marcus hadn't built a good life. He'd barely built anything. Just survived. Just existed. And now James was dead, and his widow was living in a basement, unable to afford formula for their daughter. The daughter James had talked about wanting. The daughter he'd never met. Marcus sat in his truck for a long time, Ghost's head resting on his lap. Finally, he pulled out his phone and called his attorney. "David," he said when the man answered. "It's Marcus Reed. I need your help with something." "Marcus? It's 9 o'clock at night." "I know, I'm sorry, but this can't wait." There was a pause. David Walsh had been handling Marcus's affairs since his uncle died. Simple stuff, estate management, tax filings. But David was also a veterans' rights attorney. He'd served in the Army himself. He understood. "What do you need?" David asked. "I need you to look into an insurance claim. Military widow benefits. Denied on a technicality." "Marcus," "Her husband saved my life," Marcus interrupted. "In Afghanistan. And now she's living in a basement with a baby and no money and no help. I need to fix this." Another pause. Longer this time. "Give me the details," David said finally. "I'll see what I can do." Marcus gave him everything he knew, Sarah's name, James's unit, the approximate date of death. David promised to start research in the morning. "Marcus," David said before hanging up, "this could get complicated. These insurance companies don't like being challenged." "I don't care," Marcus said. "It could take months, years even." "I don't care." "And it might not work. The denial might stand." "Then I'll find another way," Marcus said. "But I'm not walking away from this." "Why?" David asked. I mean, I understand gratitude, but because he talked about her, Marcus said quietly. While he was pulling me out, he talked about his fiancée, Sarah, and how much he loved her, and how he couldn't wait to marry her and start a family. He saved my life so he could go home to her, and now he's gone, and she's alone, and his daughter is crying herself to sleep because she's hungry. Marcus's voice broke on the last word. He gave me my life back, Marcus continued. The least I can do is make sure his family is taken care of. All right, David said. All right, I'm in. We'll figure this out. After they hung up, Marcus sat in the darkness. Ghost shifted, pressing closer. What do I do, buddy? Marcus whispered. Do I tell her that I knew James? That he saved us? Ghost whined softly. Yeah, Marcus said. That's what I thought. But not yet. Not tonight. Sarah had enough to process without adding this weight. Tomorrow, Marcus would start building something. A foundation. A way forward. Something that honored James's sacrifice. Tonight, he would just sit with the crushing knowledge that fate had brought him to a grocery store parking lot for a reason. That God, if there was a God, had put Sarah Chen in his path, and that walking away was no longer an option. Inside the apartment, Sarah fed Lily the new formula and watched her daughter's face relax as her hunger eased. The baby's eyes grew heavy, her body settling into contentment. Sarah laid her in the crib and sank onto the bed, staring at James's photo. I met someone today, she whispered to the image. He helped us, gave us food, drove us home. His dog's name is Ghost, and he has kind eyes, and I don't know why he stopped. But he did. She wiped her eyes. I'm trying so hard, James. I'm trying. But I don't know if it's enough. The apartment was silent except for Lily's soft breathing. Sarah pulled the blanket over herself and closed her eyes. Tomorrow, she'd figure out what to do about the eviction, about finding a new job, about all of it. Tonight, she'd just sleep and dream of a man who kept his promises, even after he was gone. Morning light filtered through Marcus's bedroom window, pale and cold. He hadn't slept. Ghost lay beside him on the bed, a privilege Marcus had allowed after returning from Sarah's apartment. The dog sensed something was wrong. Dogs always knew. Marcus stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment from 5 years ago. James's voice, his hands, the way he'd smiled even while bleeding, even while bullets tore through the air around them. You're going to make it, sir. You and Ghost both. Marcus sat up, his head pounding. The TBI symptoms were worse when he didn't sleep. Dr. Ortega would lecture him about sleep hygiene and stress management. But how was he supposed to sleep, knowing James Chen's widow was struggling alone? He moved to his study, Ghost following. From the closet, Marcus pulled out the cedar box he hadn't opened in months. Inside were his medals, his discharge papers, and a bundle of letters tied with string. He found the one he wanted. Dated November 2019. Written in a hospital bed in Germany while recovering from surgery. The letter was addressed to Corporal James Chen. Marcus had poured everything into it. Gratitude, respect, a promise to live a life worthy of the sacrifice. He'd mailed it to James's unit in California. It had been returned 6 months later. Recipient no longer at this address. Marcus had tried other channels, called the base, left messages. Nothing. Eventually, he'd assumed James didn't want to be found. Some guys didn't. They did their job and moved on, didn't want the weight of someone else's gratitude. Marcus had respected that. But he'd kept the letter. Now he unfolded it with careful hands, reading his own words from 5 years ago. You talked about your future while saving my life. About Sarah. About the family you'd build. I made you a promise that day, that Ghost and I would make it, that we'd go home and have a good life. I intend to keep it. But I need you to know, I owe you everything. If you ever need anything, ever, you call me. That's not charity. That's a debt I'll carry until the day I die. Marcus's hands shook. James had never called, had never needed anything. Until now. He can't call, Marcus said to Ghost. But she needs help. She needs everything. Ghost's tail thumped once against the floor. Marcus pulled out his phone and texted David. Need to meet today. This is urgent. The response came immediately. My office, 10 a.m. Sarah woke to Lily crying and sunlight that felt too bright. Her body ached. She'd slept in her clothes again, too exhausted to change. Lily's diaper was soaked through. Sarah changed her quickly, efficiently, then heated a bottle of the formula Marcus had bought. The formula Marcus had bought. A stranger's formula. Shame burned through her. She'd taken charity. She'd broken her own rule. But watching Lily drink, seeing her daughter's face relax with satisfaction, Sarah couldn't regret it. We'll pay him back, she whispered to Lily. Somehow. But how? She had no job, no prospects. 3 weeks until eviction. Sarah's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Ms. Chen, this is Monica Torres from Montana Family Services. I'm calling about your WIC application. Sarah's stomach dropped. Is there a problem? No, actually. Your application was approved. I have vouchers ready for pickup. Can you come to the office today? Relief made Sarah's knees weak. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. After hanging up, Sarah allowed herself one moment of gratitude. Then she looked around the apartment, at the eviction notice on the counter, at the stack of medical bills, at James's photo watching from the wall. One small victory didn't change everything else falling apart. David Walsh's office was in downtown Billings, a modest space in an old brick building. Marcus arrived early, Ghost at his side. The receptionist, a woman named Carol who knew Ghost by name, waved them through. David stood when Marcus entered. He was tall, lean, with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen their share of battles, both legal and literal. Coffee? David asked. Please. They sat. Ghost settled at Marcus's feet. David pulled out a legal pad already covered in notes. I did some preliminary research last night, David said. Sarah Chen's claim denial. Want to hear what I found? Marcus leaned forward. Everything. The insurance company is Patriot Benefits Group. They handle military family policies through a third-party contract with the VA. Sarah's claim was denied based on a pre-existing condition clause. James didn't have a pre-existing condition. According to his medical records, he was diagnosed with PTSD after his 2017 deployment, received treatment at Camp Pendleton's counseling center for 6 months. Marcus's jaw tightened. PTSD isn't a pre-existing condition for accidental death. No, David agreed. It's not, but Patriot Benefits is arguing that PTSD contributed to the training accident. They're claiming James was negligent due to impaired judgment. That's bullshit. Of course it is, but it's also a gray area in the policy language. Just enough wiggle room for them to deny the claim. Marcus stood, pacing. Ghost watched him carefully. So we challenge it. We can. But Marcus, this won't be fast. These cases take months, sometimes years. And Patriot Benefits has deep pockets. They'll fight. I don't care. David studied him. Why are you doing this? And don't tell me it's just gratitude. Marcus stopped pacing. He looked at the photo on David's desk. David in army uniform, younger, standing with his unit in Iraq. You ever have someone save your life? Marcus asked. Yeah. You ever get the chance to repay them? David's expression softened. No, he didn't make it home. Then you understand, Marcus said quietly. James Chen pulled me out of a building while it was under fire, worked for 20 minutes with his bare hands, Talked to me about his future, about Sarah, about the daughter he wanted to have. He saved me so he could come home to her. And now he's gone, and she's got nothing. Marcus sat back down. I can't bring him back, but I can make sure his family is taken care of. I can make sure his sacrifice meant something. David nodded slowly. All right. I'll file a motion to reopen the claim, but Marcus, Sarah will find out you're involved eventually. I know. And she might not like it. She might see it as pity. It's not pity. You know that. She doesn't. Marcus absorbed this. Then I'll deal with that when it comes. Right now, she needs help. That's what matters. David made a note. I'll also look into Patriot Benefits history, see if there's a pattern of denials. If we can prove systematic discrimination against military widows, do it, Marcus said. Do whatever you need to do. The WIC office was crowded and fluorescent lit. Sarah sat with Lily in a plastic chair, waiting for her name to be called. Around her, other mothers bounced fussy babies, filled out paperwork, spoke in tired voices to caseworkers. This was her life now. Waiting rooms and vouchers and counting every penny. Sarah Chen? Monica Torres was younger than Sarah expected, late 20s, with kind eyes and a professional manner that felt genuine rather than bureaucratic. She led Sarah to a small office and closed the door. I have good news, Monica said, handing over a folder. Your WIC benefits are approved for 6 months. Formula, milk, eggs, cheese, and some produce. It's not everything, but it helps. Thank you, Sarah whispered. Thank you so much. Monica hesitated. I also wanted to ask, are you receiving your widow's benefits from the VA? Sarah's face went tight. No. The insurance company denied my claim. On what grounds? They said James had a pre-existing condition, PTSD. But that doesn't make sense. He died in an accident, not from... Sarah's voice broke. She steadied herself. I've called 17 times. They won't budge. Monica frowned, making a note. Have you considered legal representation? I can't afford a lawyer. There are veteran advocacy groups, free legal services. I can give you some numbers. Sarah took the paper Monica offered, but she'd heard this before. She'd called those numbers, left messages that were never returned. Everyone meant well. No one could actually help. Ms. Chen, Monica said gently, I know it feels impossible right now, but don't give up. Sometimes things change when you least expect it. Sarah nodded, not believing it. As she left the office, vouchers in hand, her phone buzzed. A text from Rachel, her landlord. Need to talk. Can you stop by today? Sarah's stomach knotted. She knew what this was. Rachel was going to tell her to leave sooner, maybe even immediately. She texted back, I'll be there in an hour. Marcus spent the afternoon at the county records office, Ghost waiting in the truck. David had given him a list of documents to request, training accident reports, insurance correspondence, anything that might help their case. The clerk was skeptical at first, citing privacy regulations. But Marcus had Sarah's written authorization. He drafted it himself that morning and would get her signature later, somehow. And eventually, the paperwork started flowing. What he found made his blood boil. The training accident report was thin. Too thin. A malfunction during a live fire exercise. Equipment failure. No negligence cited. James had been following protocol. Yet Patriot Benefits had manufactured a narrative about impaired judgment. They'd taken a diagnosis of PTSD, something James had sought treatment for, something he'd handled responsibly, and twisted it into liability. Marcus photographed every page, sent them to David. Texted, This is fraud. David's response, Proving it is harder than you think, but we'll try. Marcus sat in the parking lot afterward, hands gripping the steering wheel. Ghost climbed into the front seat and pressed his head against Marcus's shoulder. We're going to fix this, Marcus said. Whatever it takes. His phone rang. Dr. Ortega. "You missed our session this morning," she said when he answered. "I'm sorry, something came up." "Marcus, we've talked about this. Consistency is important for your recovery." "I know. I'll reschedule." There was a pause. "Are you okay? You sound tense." Marcus almost laughed. Tense didn't begin to cover it. "I'm fine," he lied. "Marcus. Really, I'm handling something. I'll call you later." He hung up before she could press further. Dr. Ortega meant well, but she wouldn't understand this. She'd say he was projecting, compensating, avoiding his own trauma by focusing on someone else's. Maybe she'd be right. But Marcus didn't care. Rachel met Sarah at the door, her expression apologetic. "Come in," she said. "I made tea." Sarah followed her inside, Lily heavy in her arms. Rachel's kitchen was warm and smelled like cinnamon, a stark contrast to the cold conversation Sarah knew was coming. They sat. Rachel poured tea neither of them would drink. "Sarah," Rachel began, "I got a call this morning from the man named David Walsh. He's an attorney." Sarah's heart stopped. "I don't understand." "He said he's representing a client who wants to help with your rent, anonymously. He paid your back rent and 3 months forward." The room tilted. "What?" "I don't know who it is," Rachel continued quickly. "Mr. Walsh wouldn't say, but he was legitimate. I verified everything. The money's real." Sarah couldn't breathe. "Why? Why would someone—" "I don't know. But Sarah, this gives you time. Time to find work, to get on your feet. You don't have to leave." Sarah set her tea down with shaking hands. "I can't accept this." "Mr. Walsh said you'd say that. He asked me to tell you it's not charity. It's—" Rachel consulted a note. "Obligation. One person to another." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Obligation. One person to another. That's what Marcus had said last night. Those exact words. "No," Sarah whispered. "No, he didn't." But who else? Who else knew those words? Who else would— "Sarah?" Rachel asked. "Are you okay?" Sarah stood abruptly. "I have to go. I'm sorry. Thank you for the tea." She left before Rachel could respond, practically running to the bus stop. Her mind raced. Marcus had helped her last night. Had he done this too? How? Why? She didn't know him. He didn't know her. Except he'd asked about James, had recognized something when she mentioned her husband was a Marine. Sarah pulled out her phone and searched. Marcus Reed, Billings, Montana. Nothing useful. Just a property listing for a house sale 2 years ago. She tried Marcus Reed, Marines, Afghanistan. Still nothing specific. But her instincts screamed that she was right. Marcus had paid her rent. Marcus was helping her. And she had no idea why. That evening, Marcus drove past Sarah's apartment. He didn't stop, just slowed enough to see lights on in the basement windows. To know she and Lily were home, safe, warm. Ghost whined from the passenger seat. "I know," Marcus said. "I should tell her." But how? How did he explain that her husband, a man she'd loved, a man she was grieving, had saved Marcus's life? That Marcus owed James everything? That this wasn't pity, but repayment of a debt that could never truly be settled? He circled the block twice before forcing himself to drive home. Inside his house, Marcus opened his laptop and started researching Patriot Benefits Group. David had mentioned looking for patterns, and Marcus was good at patterns. It's what the Marines had trained him for, finding threats, connecting dots, seeing what others missed. 2 hours later, he found something. Patriot Benefits had denied 127 military widow claims in the past 3 years. All of them cited pre-existing conditions or policy technicalities. The approval rate for military widow claims was 23%, compared to a national average of 76%. Someone was systematically denying legitimate claims. Marcus dug deeper, found SEC filings, found a board member who also served in Congress, Representative Bill Hartley, Montana's 2nd District. He cross-referenced Hartley's stock portfolio. Bingo. Hartley owned significant shares in Patriot Benefit's parent company, and every time the stock price rose, it correlated with quarters where claim denials increased. Profit over people. Politics over service. Marcus's hands curled into fists. He emailed everything to David with a subject line, "Found your pattern." Then he sat back, Ghost's head on his lap, and made a decision. This was bigger than Sarah, bigger than one widow's claim. This was about hundreds of families being cheated by a system designed to protect them. Marcus couldn't fix the past, couldn't bring James back, couldn't undo the explosion in Afghanistan or the training accident in California. But he could fight this. He could expose the corruption. He could make sure no other widow went through what Sarah was enduring. It's what James would have wanted. It's what James deserved. Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, while Lily breathed softly in her crib. Someone had paid her rent, given her 3 months of breathing room, and she was almost certain it was Marcus. But why? She thought about his face when she'd mentioned James, the way something had shifted in his expression, the way he'd left quickly, like he'd seen a ghost. Sarah got up and went to the small desk where she kept James's letters. She hadn't read them in weeks. It hurt too much. But tonight she needed to feel close to him. She pulled out the bundle from his last deployment. 2019, Afghanistan. Most were love letters, sweet, simple, full of longing. But one was different, written just before he came home. "Something happened yesterday, Sarah. I can't talk about details, but we had a bad situation. Building collapse, insurgent fire. I helped pull a captain and his canine out of the rubble. Both of them were pinned, losing blood, probably dying. The captain kept asking me to save his dog first. Can you believe that? Dying, and he's worried about his dog. I got them both out. Took forever, but I got them both out. He told me his dog's name was Ghost. Made me promise I'd get Ghost home safe. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe because it reminded me what I'm fighting for. Not just freedom or democracy or any of that big stuff, but the small things, the personal things, keeping promises, protecting the people and animals we love. I can't wait to come home to you, to start our life, to keep every promise I've ever made to you." Sarah's hands trembled. Ghost. Marcus's dog was named Ghost. A captain. Afghanistan. 2019. It couldn't be coincidence. Marcus was the man James had saved. Sarah read the letter 3 times, then a 4th. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Ghost. Afghanistan. 2019. A captain who cared more about saving his dog than himself. It was Marcus. It had to be Marcus. James had saved the man who'd just paid her rent, who'd bought formula for Lily, who'd appeared in a parking lot, like an answer to a prayer she hadn't even spoken. Sarah looked at the clock. 9:47 p.m. Too late for a confrontation. Too late to demand answers. She didn't care. She bundled Lily into her warmest clothes, called a taxi she couldn't afford, and gave the driver Marcus's address, found it by searching property records on her phone during the 15-minute wait. The house was dark when they arrived, except for a single light in a back window. Sarah paid the driver with the last of her cash and walked to the front door, Lily drowsy against her shoulder. She knocked. Hard. No response. She knocked again. Ghost barked once from inside. Then the porch light flicked on. Marcus opened the door, surprise flashing across his face. He was in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair disheveled, eyes tired. "Sarah? What's wrong? Is Lily—" "You were there," Sarah interrupted, her voice shaking. "Afghanistan. 2019. James saved you. Marcus went completely still. You knew, Sarah continued, her anger building with each word. You knew who I was that night in the parking lot. You knew James was my husband, and you didn't say anything. Sarah, don't lie to me. Ghost. Your dog's name is Ghost. James wrote about a captain with a canine named Ghost, a man he pulled from a collapsed building. That was you. Marcus's jaw tightened. He stepped back, opening the door wider. Come inside, please. I don't want to come inside. I want answers. Then come inside and I'll give them to you. Sarah hesitated, then pushed past him into the house. Ghost approached immediately, tail wagging, but sensing the tension. He stayed close to Lily, protective. Marcus closed the door and gestured toward the living room. Sarah didn't sit. She stood in the center of the room, holding Lily like a shield. Tell me, she demanded. All of it. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Yes, James saved my life. Helmand Province, November 2019. Our unit was clearing a compound when an IED detonated. The building came down on top of me and Ghost. We were pinned, bleeding out. His voice was flat, reciting facts, but Sarah saw his hands curl into fists. James crawled through enemy fire to reach us, Marcus continued. Worked for 20 minutes with his bare hands pulling away concrete. Got Ghost out first because I begged him to. Then came back for me. Why didn't you tell me? Sarah's voice cracked. That night, when you saw his picture, you knew. Why didn't you say anything? Because... Marcus stopped, started again. Because you were already carrying so much. I didn't want to add to it. That's not your decision to make. I know. You had no right. I know, Marcus said more firmly. You're right. I should have told you immediately, but Sarah, I froze. I walked into your apartment and saw his face, and it was like being back there, under that rubble, hearing his voice. I panicked. Sarah's anger wavered. She recognized trauma when she saw it, recognized the haunted look in Marcus's eyes. He talked about me, she said quietly. Didn't he? While he was pulling you out. Marcus nodded. He talked about you the whole time, about how much he loved you, about getting married when he got home, about wanting a daughter someday. A sob broke through Sarah's composure. She pressed her hands to her mouth, trying to hold it back. He said, Marcus's voice roughened. He said he wanted to teach his kids about service, about doing the right thing even when it's hard, about keeping promises. Stop, Sarah whispered. I made him a promise that day, Marcus continued anyway, that Ghost and I would make it home, that we'd have good lives, that his sacrifice would mean something. He stepped closer, not touching her, but close enough that she could see the anguish in his face. I tried to find him afterward, Marcus said. Wrote him a letter, sent it to his unit. It came back undeliverable. I searched for years, and then I found you in a parking lot, returning formula because you were $42 short, and I realized that you'd failed, Sarah finished. That you didn't keep your promise. No, Marcus said sharply. That I was being given a second chance to keep it. The room fell silent, except for Lily's soft breathing. The rent, Sarah said. The groceries, the attorney looking into my insurance claim. That's all you. Yes. Why? Because I owe James my life, and I owe you. You don't owe me anything, Sarah cut him off. I don't want your guilt money. I don't want your pity. It's not pity, Marcus said, his voice rising. It's honor. It's debt. It's... He stopped, visibly struggling for control. Sarah, your husband saved me when he didn't have to. He talked about you, about building a life with you, while bullets were hitting the walls around us. He gave me hope when I thought I was dying. Marcus's hands were shaking now. Ghost moved to his side, pressing against his leg. And then I found out he's gone, Marcus continued, his voice breaking. That he never got to meet his daughter. That you're alone and struggling, and his sacrifice, all of it, feels wasted. So no, I don't feel pity. I feel responsible. That's not fair, Sarah whispered. James's death isn't your fault. Isn't it? He should be here. He should be the one taking care of you and Lily, not me. Stop it. Sarah's voice hardened. Stop making this about your guilt. James made his choice. He saved you because that's who he was, not because he expected something in return. Marcus flinched like she'd struck him. You want to honor him? Sarah asked. Then stop treating me like a charity case. Stop making decisions for me. Stop. Lily started crying, picking up on the tension. Sarah automatically began rocking her, her anger deflating into exhaustion. I'm sorry, Marcus said quietly. You're right. I should have asked. Should have told you everything from the beginning. Sarah looked at him, really looked at him, saw the scars, the haunted eyes, the way Ghost stayed glued to his side. This wasn't just about James. This was about Marcus's own survival, his own need for purpose. The insurance claim, she said. Can you actually help with that, or is it just another empty promise? We can win, Marcus said. My attorney found evidence of systematic fraud. Patriot Benefits has been denying military widow claims to boost profits. They're doing it to hundreds of families. Sarah's breath caught. Hundreds? At least, maybe more. She sat down heavily on the couch, Lily in her lap. So it's not just me? No, it's not just you. Sarah processed this. Other widows. Other children growing up without their father's benefits. Other families struggling the way she was struggling. If we fight this publicly, Marcus said carefully, if we expose what they're doing, we could help a lot of people. But Sarah, it won't be easy. They'll fight back. They'll dig into James's past, try to discredit him, discredit you. It could get ugly. How ugly? They'll use his PTSD diagnosis against him. They'll claim he was negligent, unstable, anything to justify the denial. Sarah's hands tightened on Lily. James wasn't negligent. He was careful. He followed every protocol. I know, but they don't care about truth. They care about money. Sarah looked down at her daughter. Lily had stopped crying and was playing with Sarah's hair, oblivious to the weight of the conversation. What do you need from me? Sarah asked. I need you to let me help. Not as charity, as partnership. We build something together. A foundation, an advocacy group, whatever it takes. We fight this the right way. Legally. Publicly. We make enough noise that they can't ignore us. And if we lose? Then at least we tried. At least we stood up. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then, I want to see it. The letter James wrote, about saving you. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. He disappeared into another room and returned with a worn piece of paper. Sarah read it slowly, tears streaming down her face. James's handwriting, James's words, talking about promise-keeping and fighting for what mattered. He would want me to fight, she said finally. Wouldn't he? Yes, Marcus said. He would. Sarah wiped her eyes and stood, decision made. Okay, we fight. But Marcus, no more secrets. No more decisions without talking to me first. If we're doing this, we're doing it as equals. Agreed. And I'm paying you back. Every cent. I don't care how long it takes. Marcus opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. Okay. Sarah called another taxi. While they waited, Marcus made Lily a bottle, and Sarah watched him move around the kitchen with surprising competence. Ghost stayed beside Lily's carrier, watchful and gentle. He loves her already, Sarah observed. Ghost? Marcus smiled slightly. He's got good instincts about people. Always has. Is that why you stopped that night? Because Ghost sensed something? Yeah. He wouldn't let me walk away. I've learned to trust that. The taxi arrived. As Sarah gathered Lily, Marcus touched her arm gently. Sarah, thank you for not walking away, for giving me a chance to make this right. Sarah met his eyes. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for Lily, for James, for every other widow who got screwed by that company. I know. That's why it'll work. David Walsh filed the lawsuit 3 days later, not just against Patriot Benefits, but against their parent company, and specifically naming Representative Bill Hartley for conflict of interest. The local news picked it up within hours. Sarah was at the WIC office when Monica showed her the headline on her phone. Widow sues insurance giant over denied military benefits, alleges systematic fraud. That's you, Monica said, eyes wide. Sarah, you're all over the news. Sarah's stomach dropped. She'd known this was coming, but seeing it in print made it real. Her phone started ringing. Unknown numbers. She ignored them. By evening, there were emails, reporters, other military widows who'd been denied claims, advocacy groups offering support, and one email from Patriot Benefits legal team, a settlement offer. Take $50,000 and sign a non-disclosure agreement. Sarah called Marcus immediately. They're trying to silence you, he said when she read him the email. $50,000 is nothing compared to what you're actually owed, and the NDA means you can't talk about their fraud. What do I do? What do you want to do? Sarah thought about the other emails, women with stories just like hers, children who needed their father's benefits. I want to fight, she said. Then we fight. Sarah declined the settlement the next morning. By afternoon, Patriot Benefits had released a statement calling her lawsuit frivolous and opportunistic. The press conference was David's idea. He arranged it at the Montana Veterans Center, filled the room with reporters and veterans advocates. Sarah stood at a podium with Lily in her arms, Marcus beside her, and told her story. She talked about James, about his service, his sacrifice, his character. About coming home from his funeral to find the insurance denial letter waiting. About calling 17 times and being told no, again and again. My husband died serving his country, Sarah said, her voice steady despite her nerves. He deserves better than this. Every service member deserves better than this. The questions came fast. How much was she owed? Why was she suing now? Was there proof of fraud? David fielded the legal questions. Marcus stood silent, Ghost at his feet, a steady presence. Then a reporter asked, Ms. Chen, who's funding this lawsuit? These cases are expensive. Sarah glanced at Marcus. They'd agreed to keep his involvement minimal, to keep the focus on the systemic issue. I have support from veterans advocacy groups, Sarah said carefully. But specifically, is it true that a former Marine is bankrolling your case? Someone with a personal connection to your late husband? Sarah's heart raced. How did they know? Marcus stepped forward before she could answer. My name is Marcus Reed. I served with James Chen in Afghanistan. He saved my life. When I learned his widow was being denied benefits, I helped connect her with legal resources. That's not unusual. Veterans help each other. So you're paying for the lawsuit? I'm supporting a just cause, Marcus said evenly. Next question. But the damage was done. Sarah could see it in the reporters' faces, the shift from sympathy to skepticism. After the press conference, David pulled them aside. They're going to spin this, he warned. Make it look like you two are personally involved, like this is about your relationship, not the fraud. We're not in a relationship, Sarah said. Doesn't matter. They'll imply it anyway. Sarah felt sick. So what do we do? We stay focused on the facts. We don't give them anything personal to work with, and we prepare for them to get nasty. He was right. The next day, an article appeared in a conservative blog. Gold-digging widow and her Marine boyfriend, insurance scam or love story. Sarah's phone exploded with hate messages, strangers calling her a liar, a manipulator. Worse. Marcus called her that night. "Don't read the comments," he said. "Too late. Sarah, they're saying I'm using you, using James's memory, that I'm a fraud. You know that's not true." "Do I?" Sarah's voice broke. "Marcus, maybe they're right. Maybe I should have just taken the settlement. 50,000 would have been enough to what? Live for a year? 2? Sarah, this isn't about money. It's about what's right. Easy for you to say. You're not the one being called a gold digger." Silence on the line. "I'm sorry," Sarah said. "That wasn't fair." "No, you're right. This is harder on you than it is on me. But Sarah, other widows are coming forward. I got 3 calls today from women who saw your press conference and want to join the lawsuit. 3 more families who are willing to fight." Sarah closed her eyes. 3 more. 3 more women like her, carrying the same weight. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. We keep going." "You sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." Over the next week, 7 more military widows joined the lawsuit. David filed an amended complaint. The story went national, and Patriot Benefits hired the most aggressive law firm in Montana to destroy them. The first salvo came via subpoena. Patriot Benefits demanded James's complete military medical records, including psychiatric evaluations and therapy notes. Sarah called David, panicking. "They can't do that. Those are private." "They can in a lawsuit. They're arguing James's mental health is relevant to the case." "But it's not. He died in an equipment malfunction, not—" "Sarah, I know. But they're going to paint a picture of him being unstable. They're going to take every therapy session, every PTSD diagnosis, and twist it." Sarah felt rage building in her chest. "So what do we do?" "We fight it. We get James's commanding officers to testify about his fitness for duty. We get his therapist to explain that seeking treatment was responsible, not evidence of instability. We turn their smear campaign into proof of his character." It sounded good in theory. In practice, it meant Sarah spent the next 2 weeks reliving James's worst moments, reading therapy notes where he'd talked about nightmares, about guilt over missions gone wrong, about struggling to adjust to civilian life. Marcus found her crying in her apartment one night after Lily had gone to sleep. "Door was open," he explained. "Rachel let me in. She was worried." Sarah didn't look up. "They're going to make him look crazy. They're going to say he was dangerous." Marcus sat beside her on the floor. Ghost immediately went to Lily's crib, taking up his protective position. "James wasn't crazy," Marcus said firmly. "He was human. He'd seen combat. He did the smart thing and got help for it." "I know that, but a jury will see the truth if we present it right. Sarah, listen to me. I've read those therapy notes too. You know what I see? A man who cared enough to get better, who fought to be present for you, who refused to let his trauma define him." Sarah finally looked at him. "You really believe we can win this?" "I have to. Because if we don't, if we let them get away with this, it tells every service member that their mental health will be used against their families, that seeking help is weakness. That's not a world I want to live in." Sarah wiped her eyes. "James would have hated this. All of it. The publicity, the fighting, the—" "James would have stood up for what's right," Marcus interrupted. "You know he would have." "Yeah," Sarah agreed softly. "He would have." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sarah asked, "Why are you really doing this, Marcus? And don't say it's about repaying a debt." Marcus was quiet for a long time. "Because I'm tired of feeling useless. Since I got injured, since I was discharged, I've been floating. No purpose, no mission. This, helping you, fighting this company. It's the first time I felt like I matter since Afghanistan." "You matter," Sarah said. "Not like this. Not in a way that counts." "Your life counts." "Does it? Ghost and I are alive because James pulled us out. What have I done with that? Sat in my uncle's house feeling sorry for myself? That's trauma, Marcus. That's recovery. It's not weakness. Then why does it feel like failing? Sarah understood that feeling too well. I don't know. But I know this. You showing up for me and Lily, you fighting this company, you using your pain to help others, that's not failing. That's exactly what James would have done. Marcus's eyes glistened. He looked away quickly. Ghost whined softly from beside the crib. He's dreaming, Marcus said, changing the subject. Lily, Ghost always knows. Sarah smiled despite everything. He's good with her. He's good with people who need protecting. It's what he was trained for. And you? Marcus met her eyes. What about me? What were you trained for? Leading, making decisions under pressure, keeping people safe. Then lead, Sarah said simply. We're in this together, but Marcus, I need you to be strong when I can't be. Because some days, I'm barely holding it together. I can do that. Promise? I promise. It felt like something shifted between them in that moment. Not romance. Something deeper. Partnership, forged in fire. Sarah's phone buzzed. An email from David. Judge set trial date, 6 months from now. Get ready. 6 months to prepare. 6 months of fighting. 6 months of keeping a promise to a man who'd kept his. Sarah looked at James's photo on the wall, then at Marcus, then at Lily sleeping peacefully. Okay, she said. Let's win this. The preparation consumed everything. Sarah spent her days with David, reviewing documents, rehearsing testimony, learning to speak like a plaintiff instead of a grieving widow. Marcus handled logistics, coordinating with the other widows who'd joined the lawsuit, managing media requests, keeping the advocacy momentum building. They met at Marcus's house most evenings, turning his dining room into a war room. Papers covered every surface. Ghost had learned to step carefully around file boxes. Lily played on a blanket in the corner, oblivious to the battle being waged around her. They're going to ask about the night James died, David said, pointing to a section in his notes. They'll want details, how you got the news, what you did afterward. They're looking for emotional instability. Sarah's jaw tightened. I buried my husband. Of course I was unstable. But you held it together, right? You took care of Lily. You went back to work. You functioned. I guess. You need to be sure, Sarah, because if you hesitate, they'll use it against you. Marcus watched Sarah's face pale. David, give her a break. It's 9:30. We've been at this for 5 hours. David started to argue, then saw Sarah's exhaustion and nodded. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. We run through it again. After he left, Sarah collapsed onto the couch. Lily had fallen asleep an hour ago, transferred carefully to the portable crib Marcus kept for nights like this. I can't do this, Sarah whispered. Marcus sat beside her. Yes, you can. No, I can't get up in front of a courtroom and talk about the worst day of my life. I can't let them pick apart James's therapy notes. I can't. Sarah. Marcus's voice was firm. Look at me. She did. You've already done the hardest part. You survived. Everything after that is just showing up. That's not helpful. It's true. You think James didn't have days where he wanted to quit? Days where the mission felt impossible? That's different. How? Sarah couldn't answer. Marcus leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Want to know what James said to me when I told him I couldn't feel my legs? When I was sure I was dying? Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. He said, Good. Then you don't have to walk. I'll carry you. And he did. He literally carried me to the medevac because I couldn't stand. Marcus's voice roughened. Some battles you don't win by being strong. You win by refusing to quit. By letting other people carry you when you can't walk anymore. Is that what you're doing? Carrying me? We're carrying each other. Sarah's phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. You should check that, Marcus said. Sarah pulled out her phone and froze. Oh, God. What? It's everywhere. Marcus, they released James's therapy notes. They can't do that. That's privileged. They leaked them to the press. His PTSD diagnosis, his nightmares, everything. Sarah's hands shook as she scrolled through headlines. Marine's mental health issues raise questions about widow's claim. Was Corporal Chen fit for duty? PTSD and the training death. New evidence emerges. Marcus grabbed his own phone. The story was on every major news site. David, Marcus said, already dialing. We need David. But before David could answer, Sarah's phone rang, a number she didn't recognize. Don't answer it, Marcus warned. Sarah answered anyway. Hello? Miss Chen? This is Linda Mercer. I'm the Executive Director of Claims Management at Patriot Benefits. Sarah's blood went cold. She put the phone on speaker. I know who you are, Sarah said. Linda's voice was smooth, professional, cold. I'm calling to offer you one final settlement. $75,000. Full benefits reinstatement. All you need to do is drop the lawsuit and sign an NDA. Why would I do that? Because, Ms. Chen, we've just begun. Those therapy notes? That's nothing compared to what we'll reveal during trial. Your husband's performance reviews, his incident reports, every mistake he ever made in uniform. James didn't make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, Ms. Chen. The question is, do you want the world examining his? Do you want your daughter growing up reading articles about her father's mental health struggles? Sarah felt sick. You're threatening me. I'm offering you a way out. Take the money, move on. Let James rest in peace. By letting you destroy other families? By staying quiet while you commit fraud? Linda's voice hardened. Fraud is a strong word. Be careful throwing it around. I have evidence. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you have a grieving widow, a boyfriend with a savior complex, and a lawyer who's in over his head. He's not my boyfriend. The press seems to think otherwise. Have you seen the photos? You and Captain Reed leaving his house at midnight? Very cozy. Sarah's stomach dropped. You're having me followed? I'm protecting my company's interests. Last chance, Ms. Chen. $75,000. Or we bury you both. The line went dead. Sarah stared at Marcus, horror spreading across her face. They're watching us, taking photos. Marcus was already moving, checking windows, his military training kicking in. Ghost stood alert, sensing the threat. Call David, Marcus said. Now! This just became harassment. But when David answered, his voice was grim. I was just about to call you. Judge Gomez recused herself from the case. What? Sarah's voice cracked. Why? Pressure from above. Someone got to her. We're getting a new judge. Arnold Fletcher. Marcus swore. Fletcher's corporate friendly. He's dismissed every class action that's crossed his desk. I know, David said. Sarah, I have to ask, do you want to take the settlement? Because this just got a lot harder. Sarah looked at Lily sleeping peacefully in the crib, at James's photo on the wall, at Marcus standing guard by the window, ready to protect them. No, she said firmly. We fight. Sarah, they leaked James's medical records. They're having me followed. They're threatening to destroy his reputation. If we quit now, they win. And every other widow out there loses too. David was quiet for a moment. Okay, then we go to war. The next morning, David filed a motion exposing the leaked therapy notes as illegal disclosure. He also filed for a restraining order against Patriot Benefits for harassment. By noon, a reporter named Kevin Stone had published an exposé on Patriot Benefits tactics, including quotes from 3 attorneys who'd previously sued the company and faced similar intimidation. "This is good," David said, reviewing the article. "Stone's credible. This gives us momentum." But momentum cut both ways. That afternoon, Representative Bill Hartley held a press conference defending Patriot benefits. He called the lawsuit a coordinated attack on a respected American company and suggested Marcus and Sarah were exploiting a tragedy for personal gain. The speech went viral. Sarah watched it on her phone and felt tears of rage burning her eyes. "He's lying. He knows they're committing fraud, and he's protecting them because he owns stock." "Then we prove it," Marcus said. "Stone already suspects the connection. We give him everything." "Is that legal?" "It's journalism. David can't leak it, but we can." Sarah met Marcus's eyes. "Are you sure?" "James didn't save my life so I could play it safe. Let's end this." They met Kevin Stone at a coffee shop in Billings 2 days later. Stone was in his early 30s, sharp-eyed and hungry for the story. He'd built his reputation exposing corruption in local government. Marcus slid a folder across the table. "Everything's in here. Hartley's stock portfolio, board minutes showing he influenced claim denials, timeline proving every time the stock price rose, denial rates increased." Stone opened the folder, scanning quickly. His eyes widened. "Where did you get this?" "Public records, SEC filings. It's all legal." "This is..." Stone looked up. "This could bring down a congressman." "Good," Sarah said. "He's protecting criminals." "You understand he'll come after you. Hard." "He already is." Stone nodded slowly. "Give me 48 hours. I'll have this verified and published." The article dropped on a Thursday morning. Congressman's Hidden Stake: How Bill Hartley Profits from Denied Military Benefits. Within hours, the Montana Attorney General announced an investigation. By evening, 3 congressional colleagues had called for Hartley's resignation. Sarah's phone exploded with media requests. She ignored them all, except one, a national morning show that wanted to interview her live. "Do it," Marcus urged. "This is our chance to control the narrative." David was less sure. "They'll ask about your relationship with Marcus, about the photos." "Let them," Sarah said. "I'll tell the truth." The interview aired Monday morning. Sarah sat across from the host, Lily on her lap, dressed simply but professionally. The host started gentle. Condolences about James, questions about the lawsuit. Then, "There have been suggestions that your relationship with Captain Reed is more than professional. Can you address that?" Sarah didn't flinch. "Marcus Reed was saved by my husband in Afghanistan. When Marcus discovered I was James's widow, he helped me. That's not romance. That's honor. That's what service members do. They take care of each other's families." "But the photos show 2 people working late to fight corporate fraud. If that's scandalous, we've lost our way as a country." The host paused, then shifted. "What do you want people to know about your husband?" Sarah's voice steadied. "James Chen was a good Marine and a good man. He sought treatment for PTSD because he wanted to be better. For me, for his future daughter, for his unit." Patriot Benefits is using that against him, saying mental health treatment equals instability. That's not just wrong, it's dangerous. It tells every service member that asking for help will hurt their families later. She looked directly into the camera. "If you're a veteran watching this, or a military family member, you're not alone. And you deserve better than what these companies are doing to us." The interview went viral. By that evening, 12 more military widows had contacted David to join the lawsuit. But Patriot Benefits wasn't finished. 3 days before the trial, they released James's incident reports from his first deployment. Minor things: a missed radio check, a late return from patrol. Nothing serious. But the press ran with it anyway. "Pattern of negligence?" one headline asked. Sarah stopped reading the news, stopped checking social media, focused only on preparing her testimony. The night before trial, she couldn't sleep. She stood at her window, watching the street, wondering if someone was out there taking photos. Her phone buzzed. Marcus. You awake? Yeah. Want to drive? Where? Anywhere. 20 minutes later, Sarah was in Marcus's truck, Lily asleep in her car seat, Ghost in the back. Marcus drove without destination, just moving through the empty streets. I'm scared, Sarah admitted. Me too. What if we lose? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then we lose. But Sarah, win or lose, you've already changed things. 12 more widows have their claims being reviewed. The Attorney General is investigating. Hartley's career is over. That's because of you. And you. And James. This is his fight as much as ours. They drove until Sarah felt calm enough to go home. Marcus walked her to the door, Ghost beside him. Whatever happens tomorrow, Marcus said, you're not alone. I know. Trial began at 9 a.m. in federal court in Helena. The courtroom was packed. Press, veterans advocates, other military widows, curious onlookers. Sarah sat at the plaintiff's table between David and Marcus, trying to control her breathing. Judge Fletcher entered. He was exactly as Marcus had described, corporate-friendly, impatient, clearly annoyed by the attention the case had drawn. Patriot Benefit's legal team was led by a woman named Christine Voss, sharp and ruthless. Her opening statement painted Sarah as opportunistic and Marcus as manipulative. This is not a case about denied benefits, Voss said. This is a case about two people trying to profit from tragedy. Ms. Chen had ample opportunity to settle. She chose litigation. Why? Because Captain Reed, who has a documented history of traumatic brain injury and PTSD, convinced her they could win millions. Sarah felt Marcus tense beside her. David put a hand on his arm. David's opening was simpler. James Chen saved lives. Patriot Benefits stole from his widow. The evidence will show a pattern of fraud. That's all this case is about. The first 2 days were document review, boring but necessary. Bank records, policy language, claim denial letters. On day 3, Patriot Benefits called their first witness, James's former commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Hayes. Sarah's heart sank. She'd tried to contact Hayes months ago. He'd never responded. Hayes took the stand, his uniform crisp, his bearing military. Voss approached him carefully. Colonel Hayes, did Corporal Chen serve under your command? Yes, ma'am. And would you describe him as a reliable Marine? Hayes paused. Corporal Chen was adequate. The word landed like a bomb. Just adequate? Voss pressed. He struggled after his second deployment, made some judgment errors. Nothing serious, but concerning. Sarah felt tears burning. This wasn't true. It couldn't be true. David stood for cross-examination. Colonel Hayes, did Corporal Chen ever receive disciplinary action? No. Did he ever fail a fitness evaluation? No. Was he ever deemed unfit for duty? No. So when you say adequate, you mean he met or exceeded all military standards? Hayes shifted. He met standards. Colonel, did you receive any communication from Patriot Benefits before this trial? Voss shot to her feet. Objection! Relevance! Your Honor, David said calmly, the witness's testimony contradicts every performance review in Corporal Chen's file. I'm establishing bias. Fletcher considered. I'll allow it. David repeated. Did Patriot Benefits contact you? Hayes hesitated too long. I may have spoken with their legal team. Did they suggest what you should say about Corporal Chen? They asked me to be honest. Did they tell you that calling him adequate would help their case? Objection! Voss's voice was sharp. Sustained, Fletcher said. Move on, counselor. But the damage was done. The jury had seen Hayes hesitate. David called Marcus to the stand next. Sarah held her breath. Marcus walked to the witness box with military bearing, was sworn in, sat ramrod straight. David started gently. "Captain Reed, how did you meet Corporal Chen?" "He saved my life. Afghanistan, November 2019. "Can you describe what happened?" Marcus's voice was steady, factual. He described the explosion, being pinned, Ghost trapped beside him, then James appearing through the smoke. "He worked for 20 minutes, pulling away concrete," Marcus said, "under enemy fire. His hands were bleeding. He got my canine out first because I asked him to, then came back for me." "What did he talk about while he worked?" "His fiancée, Sarah. About wanting to marry her, about having kids someday, about teaching them to do the right thing, even when it's hard." Sarah wiped her eyes. Voss stood for cross. "Captain Reed, you have traumatic brain injury, correct?" "Yes, ma'am." "PTSD?" "Yes, ma'am." "Do you take medication?" "Yes, ma'am." "How many medications?" David objected. "Relevance." "Your Honor," Voss said smoothly, "the witness's credibility is at issue." "I'll allow it," Fletcher said. Marcus answered calmly. 3, for headaches, anxiety, and sleep." "Do these medications affect your memory?" "Sometimes." "So when you describe events from 5 years ago, you might be misremembering?" "No, ma'am. Some things you don't forget." "Like Corporal Chen's supposed heroism?" "It's not supposed. It happened." "Or like meeting his widow by coincidence in a parking lot?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "That was coincidence." "Was it? Or did you seek her out? Perhaps because you felt guilty about surviving when Corporal Chen didn't." "Objection," David said. "Speculation." "Withdrawn," Voss said, smiling. She'd made her point. But the final blow came when Voss called Linda Mercer to the stand. Mercer was polished, professional, sympathetic. She explained policy procedures, claim reviews, the unfortunate necessity of denying some claims. "Ms. Mercer," Voss asked, "when Ms. Chen's claim was denied, was it personal?" "Absolutely not. We follow strict protocols. Corporal Chen's PTSD diagnosis met the policy exclusion criteria." "Even though he died in an equipment accident?" "The exclusion language is clear. Any pre-existing mental health condition that could affect judgment or performance." David's cross was aggressive. "Ms. Mercer, how many military widow claims has Patriot Benefits denied in the past 3 years?" "I don't have that number memorized." David held up a document. 127. That's a denial rate of 77%. The industry average is 24%. Can you explain that?" "Each case is unique." "Is it unique that Representative Hartley, who owns stock in your company, has influenced claim decisions?" "Objection!" Voss was on her feet. "Sustained," Fletcher snapped. "Mr. Walsh, careful." But David had planted the seed. On the final day, Sarah took the stand. Her hands shook as she was sworn in. David walked her through the basics: her marriage to James, his deployment, his return, Lily's birth, his death. Then, "When did you learn your claim was denied?" 2 weeks after his funeral." "How did that feel?" "Like losing him all over again." Sarah's voice broke. She forced herself to continue. "I'd just buried my husband. I was alone with a newborn, and the company that was supposed to help us said no. Said James's PTSD made him negligent, like asking for help was a crime." "What do you want people to know about James?" Sarah looked at the jury. "James was brave. He saved people. He saved Marcus. He came home to me every time, even when it was hard. And when he struggled, he got help. That should be honored, not used against him." Voss's cross was brutal. She asked about Sarah's finances, her relationship with Marcus, her motives for suing. "Isn't it true you were desperate for money?" "Yes." "And Captain Reed offered you a way out?" "No. He offered me justice. Justice or revenge? Justice, Sarah said firmly. For James, for me, for every widow you've cheated. Voss smiled coldly. No further questions. Closing arguments were scheduled for the next morning, but that night, Kevin Stone published another article. Federal investigation launched into Patriot benefits. The Attorney General had found enough evidence to pursue criminal charges. The next morning, before arguments could begin, Fletcher called both legal teams to his chambers. 20 minutes later, they emerged. David looked shell-shocked. What happened? Sarah whispered. They're offering full settlement. All benefits, retroactive payments, and they'll review every denied claim from the past 5 years. Sarah's breath caught. What? The criminal investigation changed everything. They can't risk this going to the jury. So we won? You won. Sarah turns to Marcus, tears streaming. We won! Marcus pulled her into a hug. Ghost barked once, tail wagging. But the real victory came 2 months later, when Patriot Benefits announced policy changes affecting all military family claims. 63 widows had their benefits reinstated. Representative Hartley resigned from Congress, and James Chen's name became synonymous with reform. Sarah stood in Montana Veterans Center at a ceremony honoring the widows who'd fought alongside her. Lily was in her arms, bigger now, babbling happily. Marcus stood beside her, Ghost at his feet. Thank you all for coming, Sarah said to the crowd. This isn't about money. It's about honor. About making sure our service members' sacrifices mean something. James believed in doing what's right, even when it's hard. Today, we proved that still matters. Applause filled the room. Afterward, Marcus found Sarah outside. You did it, he said. We did it. Marcus looked at her. Really looked. What now? Sarah thought about James, about promises kept, about the future he'd wanted for his daughter. Now we keep going, she said. There's more work to do. Together? Sarah smiled. Together. Above them, the Montana sky stretched vast and clear. Inside, families were healing. And somewhere, Sarah believed, James was at peace. Because his sacrifice had meant something after all. 18 months changed everything and nothing. Sarah stood in the small office space the James Chen Memorial Fund had rented in Billings, sorting through applications from military families. The space wasn't much, 2 rooms above a veteran-owned coffee shop, but it was theirs. A desk, filing cabinets, a donated couch where Lily napped in the afternoons. Her daughter was almost 3 now, talking in full sentences, running everywhere Ghost would follow. And Ghost followed everywhere. Mommy, can I have juice? Lily asked from the floor where she was coloring. Ghost lay beside her, his graying muzzle resting on his paws. The dog was 7 now, slower but still devoted. Please, Sarah corrected automatically. Please, can I have juice? Sarah poured apple juice into a sippy cup and handed it over. Lily took it solemnly, then offered it to Ghost first. The dog licked her hand gently, making her giggle. He's not thirsty, baby. That's for you. Ghost is always thirsty. Marcus said so. Sarah smiled. Marcus said a lot of things these days. Most of them Lily repeated verbatim. The door opened and Marcus entered, carrying takeout bags. Ghost's tail thumped once, but he didn't leave Lily's side. Lunch, Marcus announced. And before you argue about spending money, I used a gift card from David, so technically it's free. Sarah raised an eyebrow. You're getting creative with your justifications. I'm learning from you. They ate at the desk, reviewing the week's cases. 12 new applications. 3 families they could help immediately. 2 that needed legal representation. 1 that made Sarah's chest ache. A widow with twin boys 7 months old. Claim denied for the same PTSD technicality that had been used against James. This one, Sarah said, sliding the file toward Marcus. Melissa Patterson, Air Force. Her husband died 8 months ago. Marcus scanned it quickly. His jaw tightened. They're still doing it, even after everything. The settlement only covered past claims. New denials are in a gray area until the policy changes go through Congress. Then we help her fight. David's caseload is full. Then we find another attorney. Or I pay David to take it. Whatever it takes. Sarah studied Marcus. He looked healthier than he had 18 months ago. More present, less haunted. The headaches were less frequent, the nightmares fewer. Dr. Ortega said purpose was the best medicine for trauma. Sarah believed her. You can't pay for everything, Sarah said gently. Watch me. Marcus, James would have helped her. You know he would have. Sarah couldn't argue with that. Lily wandered over, tugging on Marcus's sleeve. Read story? Marcus lifted her onto his lap without hesitation. Which one? Dog story. Ghost lifted his head, ears perked. Marcus laughed. The dog story. Again. He pulled out the worn picture book about a military working dog. Lily knew every word but loved hearing Marcus read it. Sarah watched them, something warm and complicated stirring in her chest. They'd never discussed what they were to each other. Partners in the Foundation, yes. Friends, absolutely. Family, maybe. Marcus was at their apartment most evenings. Sarah was at his house most weekends. They shared meals, shared Lily's care, shared the weight of the work they were doing. But they'd never crossed the line into something more. Sarah wasn't sure she wanted to, wasn't sure she was ready, and Marcus never pushed. Sarah? Monica Torres appeared in the doorway. She'd become the fund's first official employee 3 months ago, handling intake and case management. You have a visitor. She doesn't have an appointment, but says it's important. Who is it? Linda Mercer. Sarah's blood went cold. Marcus's entire body went rigid. Even Ghost stood, alert and tense. Tell her to leave, Marcus said flatly. Wait, Sarah stood. I want to hear what she has to say. Sarah, she came here, to our office. That took guts or desperation. Either way, I want to know why. Marcus stood too, Lily still in his arms. Then I'm staying. Linda Mercer looked different than she had in court. Smaller, somehow. Her suit was still expensive, her posture still professional. But something in her face had changed. She looked tired. Almost human. Ms. Chen, Linda said, thank you for seeing me. I didn't say I would. I said I wanted to know why you're here. Linda glanced at Marcus, then back at Sarah. I came to apologize. The words hung in the air like smoke. Sarah laughed, bitter and sharp. You came to apologize? For what exactly? Denying my claim? Leaking my husband's medical records? Threatening me? Yes, Linda said simply. For all of it. Marcus stepped forward. You need to leave, now. Please, Linda's voice cracked. Just give me 5 minutes. Sarah should have said no, should have told Marcus to escort Linda out. But something in the woman's face stopped her. 5 minutes, Sarah said. Monica, can you take Lily? Monica swept in and took Lily from Marcus's arms. Ghost hesitated, torn between following Lily and staying with Sarah. Marcus touched the dog's head. Stay. Ghost sat, eyes fixed on Linda. Talk, Sarah said. Linda sat without being invited. I was fired 6 months ago, after the settlement. The company needed a scapegoat. I was it. That's not my problem, I know. But being fired gave me distance, made me look at what I'd been doing, what I'd become. Linda's hands twisted in her lap. I spent 20 years in insurance, told myself I was helping people. But I wasn't. I was denying claims to boost profit margins. I was hurting the exact people I should have been protecting. You knew, Sarah said, her voice hard. You knew it was wrong, and you did it anyway. Yes. You destroyed families, made widows beg, used my husband's trauma against him. Yes, Linda whispered. I did all of that. Marcus was vibrating with barely controlled rage. Sarah put a hand on his arm. Why are you here? Sarah asked. What do you want from me? Linda met her eyes. Nothing. I don't want anything. I needed you to know I'm sorry. That I was wrong. That James Chen deserved better. That every family I denied deserved better. Sorry doesn't fix what you did. I know. That's why I'm also giving you this. Linda pulled out a flash drive. Internal documents. Every denied claim for the past 7 years. Every email showing executives knew they were committing fraud. Every policy memo instructing adjusters to find reasons to deny military families. Sarah stared at the flash drive. Why? Because it's evidence. Because if you give it to the Attorney General, they can prosecute. Not just civil penalties, criminal charges. Against the executives who made the decisions. Against the board members who profited. You could go to prison for leaking this. I know. Linda's voice was steady now. I deserve to. Marcus grabbed the flash drive. You think this makes up for what you did? You think betraying your company erases the damage? No, nothing erases it, but maybe it prevents future damage. Linda stood. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to have the truth. All of it. She walked to the door, then paused. Ms. Chen, your husband's claim should never have been denied. There was no legitimate reason. I knew it then. I did it anyway because I was told to. I'm going to carry that for the rest of my life. After she left, Sarah and Marcus stood in silence. Do you believe her? Marcus asked finally. I don't know, but this... Sarah took the flash drive from his hand. This could help a lot of people. Or it could be a trap. Then we have David verify it before we do anything. Marcus nodded. I'll call him now. While Marcus made the call, Sarah walked to the window. Below, Linda Mercer stood on the sidewalk, shoulders hunched, crying. For a moment, Sarah felt something she didn't expect. Pity. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But recognition that people were complicated. That guilt could drive redemption. That even the people who hurt you weren't monsters, just humans who made terrible choices. Sarah thought about James, about his belief that everyone deserved a chance to do better, even when they didn't deserve forgiveness. David wants to see the documents immediately, Marcus said, hanging up. He's sending a courier. Good. Marcus moved beside her. Are you okay? I don't know. Are you? No. Marcus exhaled roughly. Part of me wanted to throw her out. Part of me wanted to. He stopped. Yeah, Sarah said. Me too. They stood together, watching the street. Lily's laughter carried from the other room. Ghost patted over and pressed against Sarah's legs. She's right about one thing, Sarah said quietly. Sorry doesn't fix anything. But action might. The documents were verified within a week. Linda had given them everything. Smoking gun evidence of systematic fraud dating back 7 years. The Attorney General convened a grand jury. Within a month, 5 Patriot Benefits executives were indicted. The story exploded across national news. Military families flooded the James Chen Memorial Fund with applications. Sarah hired 2 more staff members, then 4. The small office above the coffee shop became too cramped. They moved to a larger space downtown. Marcus threw himself into fundraising. He spoke at veteran events, met with donors, leveraged his military connections. Money flowed in. Not a fortune, but enough. Enough to help. 3 months after Linda's visit, Sarah testified before Congress about military family benefits reform. She sat at a long table in a government chamber, cameras everywhere, Lily coloring quietly beside her because Sarah refused to leave her daughter behind. "My husband, James Chen, served this country honorably," Sarah told the committee. "When he sought treatment for PTSD, he did what every service member should do. He asked for help. That treatment saved his life. It made him a better Marine and a better father. But after he died, the insurance company used that treatment against him, against me, against our daughter." She gestured to Lily. "This little girl will never know her father. That's tragedy enough, but she shouldn't also lose his benefits because he had the courage to heal." The bill passed 6 months later. The James Chen Military Family Protection Act closed the PTSD loophole and mandated independent review of all denials. Sarah watched the vote on television from the fund's office, Marcus beside her, tears streaming down her face. "He did this," she whispered. "James did this." "You did this," Marcus corrected. "James started it. You finished it." "We finished it." Marcus took her hand. It was the first time he'd done that. Sarah didn't pull away. On the anniversary of James's death, Sarah drove to the cemetery. She went alone, needing this moment with him. The headstone was simple. Corporal James Chen, beloved husband and father. He kept his promises. Sarah sat in the grass and talked to him the way she had for 2 years. About Lily, about the fund, about the families they were helping, about Marcus. "I don't know what we are," she admitted. "He's good to us, good to Lily. She calls him Marcus, but she looks at him like—" Sarah's voice caught. "Like she wishes he was you. And I don't know if that's okay. If you'd be okay with it." The wind stirred the grass. Somewhere nearby, a bird sang. "He saved Marcus, you know," Sarah continued. "Your sacrifice saved someone who came back and saved us. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's what legacy means. Not just what you did, but what it allowed others to do." She placed fresh flowers by the headstone. "I miss you. Lily misses you. But we're okay. We're more than okay. We're doing what you would have wanted. Helping people. Making things better. Keeping promises." Sarah stood, brushing grass from her jeans. "I love you. Always will. But I think I might be ready to let someone else in, too. Is that okay? Can I do both?" No answer came, but Sarah felt peace settle over her anyway. That evening, the fund held a dinner for the families they'd helped. 43 people filled a rented hall, widows, children, a few remarried partners, advocates who'd joined the cause. Sarah stood to speak, Lily on her hip, Marcus beside her. "2 years ago," Sarah said, "I was standing in a grocery store returning formula I couldn't afford. I thought I was alone. I thought no one saw me. No one cared." She looked at Marcus. But someone did see. Someone who understood that helping isn't charity. It's honor. It's obligation. It's what we owe each other as humans. Marcus's eyes glistened. "My husband, James, believed in service," Sarah continued. "Not just military service, but daily service. Showing up for people. Doing what's right even when it's hard. Even when no one's watching. This fund, all of us here, we're living proof that his belief mattered. That one person's sacrifice can ripple forward in ways we never imagine." She addressed the room. "Every person here has lost someone. Every one of us knows the weight of grief. But we also know something else now. We know we're not alone. We know that when we fall, someone will help us stand. That's James's legacy. That's what we're building together." Applause filled the room. Lily clapped too, not understanding, but caught up in the emotion. Later, after everyone had left and Monica had taken Lily home for the night, Sarah and Marcus cleaned up in silence. They'd done this dozens of times, the comfortable rhythm of people who knew how to work together. "Sarah," Marcus said as they were locking up, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you happy?" The question surprised her. What? Are you happy? With your life, with the work, with... He gestured vaguely. All of it. Sarah thought about the question honestly. I'm not sure happy is the right word. I'm purposeful. I'm at peace. She paused. I'm okay. Most days, I'm more than okay. Marcus nodded. Good. That's good. Why do you ask? Because I am. Happy, I mean. For the first time since Afghanistan, I'm actually happy. And it's because of you. Because of Lily. Because of this work we're doing. Sarah's heart stuttered. Marcus, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know that James's sacrifice didn't just save my life. It gave me a reason to live. You gave me that reason. They stood in the parking lot, the Montana sky vast above them. Sarah thought about James, about Marcus, about the complicated web of loss and healing that had brought them here. I'm glad you stopped that night, Sarah said finally. In the parking lot. I'm glad you saw me. So am I. And Marcus? I'm happy too. With you. With us. Whatever we are. Marcus smiled. Really smiled. Whatever we are. They drove to Sarah's apartment in comfortable silence. Ghost was already there, having been dropped off earlier by Monica. The dog greeted them with lazy tail wags. Too old now to jump up, but still devoted. Lily was asleep in her crib, one arm flung above her head, the other clutching a stuffed dog Marcus had given her. Sarah stood watching her daughter sleep, Marcus beside her. She looks like him, Marcus said quietly. More every day. I know. Does that make it harder? Sometimes. Sometimes it makes it easier. Like he's still here, somehow. They moved to the small living room. James's photo still hung on the wall, but Sarah had added others now. Pictures of Lily, of the fun's ribbon cutting, of Marcus and Ghost at a veteran event. Do you think he'd approve? Sarah asked. Of what we're doing? Marcus didn't hesitate. Yes, absolutely. Even of... Sarah gestured between them. This? Marcus was quiet for a moment. I think James would want you to be happy. To live. To let Lily have people who love her. He met Sarah's eyes. And, yeah, I think he'd approve. Sarah moved closer. I'm not ready for... I don't know what I'm ready for. But I know I don't want you to leave. I know Lily needs you. I know I need you. I'm not going anywhere, Marcus promised. Promise me. I promise. That's what this is about, isn't it? Keeping promises. James kept his promise to save me. I kept my promise to help you. You kept your promise to fight for other families. Sarah thought about all the promises that had been made and kept. All the lives changed because one Marine couldn't walk past a struggling mother, because one man chose honor over convenience. My dad used to say that God works through willing hands, Sarah said. I didn't believe it for a long time. But maybe he was right. Maybe James was God's hands when he pulled you out. Maybe you were God's hands when you helped me. Maybe we're all just... She struggled for words. Instruments of something bigger. Maybe, Marcus agreed. Or maybe we're just people trying to do the right thing. Either way, it matters. Lily stirred in her sleep, murmuring something that sounded like Dada. Sarah's breath caught. Marcus touched her shoulder gently. It's okay, he said. Whatever she needs to call me, it's okay. Sarah leaned into him, exhausted and grateful and still grieving, but also impossibly hopeful. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me, for helping, for staying. Thank you for letting me. They stood together in the quiet apartment, Ghost asleep at their feet, Lily dreaming peacefully, James's photo watching over them all. Outside, the Montana night was cold and clear, stars scattered across an endless sky. Somewhere in that vastness, Sarah believed James was at peace, not because the pain of losing him had disappeared, but because his death had meant something, had changed things, had rippled forward into healing and hope and help for dozens of families who'd been where she'd been. One decision in a grocery store parking lot, one man who'd refused to look away, one woman who'd found the strength to fight. That was all it took to change everything. Sarah kissed Lily's forehead and whispered, "Your daddy was a hero, and he's still saving people, still keeping promises, still teaching us what matters." Marcus stood in the doorway, waiting, patient, present. Sarah took his hand. "Let's go home," she said, and together they did. Because sometimes miracles don't look like lightning from heaven. Sometimes they look like a grocery store on a cold night, a Marine who pays attention, a canine who won't walk away, and a young widow who finds strength she didn't know she had. Sometimes God's greatest work happens in the smallest moments, when ordinary people make extraordinary choices. James Chen had made those choices. Marcus Reed had honored them. Sarah Chen had transformed them into lasting change. And that was legacy. That was love. That was what it meant to keep a promise, even after death. That was everything.